2, 1, and you are live.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the call to order of the Governance Committee. Today is March 15th, 2023. The time is now 4:23 p.m. In attendance, we've got myself, Committee Chair, Joseph Lombard, Committee Member, Dr. Karen Baldwin, and Ms. Superintendent Alicia Perez, and
Alicia Perrin.
Perrin, I apologize. I shall get that right. Say it one more time. Perrin.
You called me Perez this time, so that was a new
Perez? No. I must have just slurred. I know it's not no Perez.
Okay.
I either say Perrin or Perrin, and it fluctuates back and forth. Hey, at least it's not Sakalovic. Couldn't imagine how they butcher that. Okay, so now to begin, seeking a motion to approve the minutes dated February 15th, 2023. Do I have a motion to approve?
Yes, so moved.
I shall second. I personally did not find any errors or omissions of any substance. Mr. Lombard, have you found anything?
No.
Nope. Okay, so hearing that, no further discussion. All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Minutes are approved. Okay, now we've got a couple of bylaws. It's going to go quicker than it seems. We've got first up, we're going to discussion and possible action on bylaw number 9200, and that is just bear with me 1 second. I got a 10 here. Officers. And if you look at your packet, do we want to bring it up on the screen? It would be better so everybody can see what we're doing live and in person. Who's got sharing privileges with the document?
I'll bring it up for you right now, Mr. Sakalovic. Give me one moment.
Thank you. And these first few are just going to be mostly gender neutral changes in our language. Thank you. Oh, that's the committees. Committees. Okay, we got that. That's coming next. We're looking for 9200, please. Maybe I could pull it from my email.
Give me 1 second, Mr. Sakalovic. This is the one I have. Hold on 1 second.
Evening, Ms. Brown. Let the record reflect, Chairman Brown. I'm changing the language now. Chairperson Brown has joined the meeting.
Evening, everyone. Apologies. I'm like literally on my way from work.
No worries. Yeah, while we discuss that, maybe while we look for that, if everybody got a hard copy in front of them or got a copy in front of them while we could discuss this, the only real change I'm proposing for officers 9200 is strike out chairman in part one, in next to last line of 1, and add chairperson, and strike out chairman again, add vice chairman, and add chairperson. that's about the extent of it. Yeah, you can leave that one up. We'll leave that one up because that's next. But
Yeah,
that's
that's fine. That's the only ones I see as well.
right. And is anybody who want to change anything? I mean, everything we've been using for years, it hasn't caused a problem. Every now and then we get a question about reducing our votes to writing, but I don't see that as a big issue unless anybody else does and wants to discuss it.
Mr. Sokolovic, just make sure you recognize Mr. Benahan is online as well.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you very much. Let the record reflect Mr. Albert Benahan has joined. I don't see his icon. Oh, there he is. Thank you, Ms. Barron. Yes. Okay, so Albert, Mr. Benahan, we just changed 2 chairmen to chairperson. And I think we're done with the officers. Unless you have anything to add, I will seek a motion to approve to move to the first board. Okay, wait, let me start over a little bit on this because these next few are very, very easy. And I don't think there's a need to clog up 2 meetings with these changes since they're just gender changes, and we could utilize the suspension of bylaws to do them both at once and just get them out of the way in one meeting rather than clog up 2 meetings with what amounts to simple changes that really need no discussion. So how do you feel about that, Mr. Lombard?
I'm sorry, I was reading this one. What do you want to do different? You don't want to have it go to a first read, second read? Is that it?
Right, yeah, I just we'll suspend the bylaw. I don't have it at hand now, but I will when I submit the agenda item to the chair to suspend the policy that says we need 2 reads and it does just to implement just the simple ones, not the ones that we're going to end up debating and having issues on.
And is that something we can do or is something the board has to do?
Yes, we could do. Well, I'm seeking a motion to ask the board to consider doing so.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. Sure, so moved.
Okay, and I'll second that. So I'm gonna put this towards this. So all in favor?
And let me make sure I say this is for 9,200, correct?
Correct. Yes, for 9,200.
Okay. All right.
And I'm gonna do that on each. I'm gonna do that on each of the easy ones. So we don't want to see like 20 things on the agenda when we don't have to.
Right.
Right, Ms. Brown? Okay, now next up is the official duties of the chairman currently. And if we go through the changes, you can see the first changes in the title. Chairman becomes chairperson. Chairperson shall cause chairman and chairperson. And as an addition, I'm suggesting meetings of the board in compliance with these bylaws or by state statute. The reason I'm considering adding and proposing adding this is because we are changing the bylaws and the chair should comport themselves to the bylaws as we change them, whatever they may be. Does that make sense?
I would hope that that's implied. Because
Yeah.
if they change again and change again, it should always be in compliance with state laws, state statutes. And
Oh yeah, no doubt. It should always be, but with the changing bylaws, it's just best to, I think it's best just to emphasize, be a little bit redundant on it.
Okay, let's see. I don't know. Unless other people can comment.
Right, because there are other areas, all meetings of the board, where there's one, especially within the special meetings, that is embedded within the special meetings is the 3 people could call the meeting, and after 14 days, if the chair does not call it, the 3 people can in fact call it. That's something I was looking to add, but it's actually already there in the state statute. So that is one instance where the chairman would actually lose the possibilities of scheduling the meeting, and we would be following state statute. But just to leave it periods, that leaves that part out. Anybody? Right. I'm sorry, Joe. You had Mr. Lombard.
No, just see if anyone has any comments. So.
Yeah, Mr. Benahan. Nothing.
No, I don't have no question, Mr. Chair, but just to let you know that on a package, I don't see that, we can see it here, the change, but in a package, we don't see the change. I don't know if I'm wrong or you guys can see the same thing.
No, you're correct. I had sent it out.
Okay,
After the package, I sent out my copies because
all right, I just want to be sure. All right, thank you.
to keep the confusion to a minimum. But I can forward you all these if you like. But the changes are all denoted here, unless we change anything, because this is basically a living document, and it could change. So if everybody has different copies floating around, and it could get confusing which copy is the actual going copy. So
Okay.
whatever comes out of here, I think we should send to everybody. Okay, so right. So Mr. Lombard, do you have any real protest to this language, or is it acceptable?
I just don't know that it's necessary is all. I'm not sure why we would add it. I would hope, so that's why I'm looking for comments from other people.
Right.
If I could add,
Mr. Chair?
I would say that it does seem implied in the language, because the board itself its membership and its actions are all described in state statute. So number one, I think is it's implied that it would be in compliance with statute and the bylaws that the Bridgeport board developed.
Ms. Brown?
I would also, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I can't tell. Yeah, I was gonna agree with Mr. Lombard and Ms. Baldwin. I think we currently are doing a good job at making sure that everything we do put out from the board follows the state statute. But I definitely think any board member that does come on should know that this role should be following the state statute. So I would hope that it's implied as well. And that's why we'll have trainings and things like that. But I definitely don't think you need to add it as language.
All right. I disagree, but I'll go with the flow, and we could remove that. Just realize that it's implied for us as a current board, but it might not be implied by the next board 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now. And we're not always going to have somebody who has been known to be called the FOIA police before for pointing out the transgressions when we do bypass the bond.
Joe, I feel like if that clause applies to all of these, number 2, number 3, number 4, it's so that's why I don't feel it's necessary to be said at all.
All right, so can we strike that live, real time? Would you like a structure, Mr. Lombard?
Yeah, we can strike that.
All right, I'll disagree, but I'll agree for sake of time. And like I said, it's always enforceable somewhere else. So can we erase that portion right now in real time, please? So we have it. Is it possible to edit the document live on the screen?
Mr. Chair, I believe Ms.
Mr.
Perry has her
Sokolovic,
hand up.
One moment,
excuse
Mr.
me,
Mayor.
I'm sorry. Mr. Sokolovic, I'm here and I'm doing the live changes on my laptop as I'm on my iPad connected here. So as we're going through the meeting, I'll be able to change that for you. Because right
Okay.
now we have IT is just sharing the screens with you with your edits.
Okay, thank you. All right, so that's gonna be removed. So you know for secondary insurance. So we have we make a motion because the motion will get captured in the minutes exactly as stated. So I'll make a motion to strike in the copy before us the words "in compliance with these bylaws by state statute." Mr. Lombard?
Sorry. So second?
Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. This was supposed to be a short one. Okay, number 4. No changes except for the language. I just made the accident and put that in red for some reason. Number 5 is changed. Chairperson 6. I added the words. Okay, I'm going to read the whole thing out. The chairperson shall have authority to act as the board representatives for consultation of board legal counsel and may authorize other board members to consult with the board counsel when the chair. I missed the change right there. Can we note change chairman to chairperson, please? Deems it to be
I
appropriate.
copy.
Thank you. And this, apologies. But the chairperson deems it to be appropriate. And this is new language in red. And all board members should receive in writing the questions asked and answers provided. because in the past, we've gotten legal opinions days after the chair and had it sprung on us, like in a meeting. And that was very, very, gave nobody time to digest the information. So we as a board and the district, we're all paying for the legal services, not just the chairperson. So I think it'll behoove us to all be on the same page of what legal questions are being asked, as what have you. Thoughts?
Yes, I think that's a good thought. Couple things. Is it? How would that be done? Would someone be recording their conversation? Who would be recording the questions and answers? So should it be that the transcript of the conversation, or just questions and answers? Should it also be the discussion? And then the other thing is, grammatically, I think we should put a period after it deems it to be appropriate and make a new sentence.
Okay, that makes sense. And what you're saying makes sense, because not all questions are in writing. Some of them are verbal. So what can we do with that language to reflect?
Or a summary.
Mr. Chair, can I ask?
Yes,
can
Ms.
I
Brown,
ask?
go ahead. Chairman.
So,
Chairperson.
So I'm just gonna, I'm just speaking in the current role, how it has been done. Well, what me and Mr. Dugas have been doing, if that makes sense. So I would take the question that was asked, and then I would ask them to submit written form of the question. So there's documentation, whether that's email, anything that's being said via phone, which I try to keep it to the email, so there's a paper trail. So is that kind of what you guys are talking about? Because I don't know if it can be transcribed, but I do think, if anything, if Mr. Sokolovic asks a question, I would send that question via email and expect Mr. Dugas to answer the question in the email so that there's record that the question was asked. That's what I've been doing. But on the same lines of that, to this question, to this number, how is it board members can separately speak to Mr. Dugas?
No.
Or should it come directly? Okay, so that has been a area that I wanted clarification on, because it can get confusing as to who's asking what, and there's no trail of his response. So he's been saying to me that he will make sure there is a trail, but I want to make sure, if I am that person, that there isn't multiple people calling him and asking him questions.
Right, yeah, and just one point is, it's not always going to be.
And I know I'm just saying, and I know I'm just saying, just from sitting in this chair, if it makes sense. So if we could create this to reflect more of a system for the next person to come. I can only speak from where I am. Sorry.
Right. Yeah, and we're not constructing these bylaws for you per se. And I'd like to say you do have a great system going. I have no issue with that. And we shouldn't all be reaching out to legal on our own, because we do need a gatekeeper, and that gatekeeper should be the chair and should be filtering all the information to everybody. The only issue, not having the chair having the power to do that contact, is just us getting the information that's received on an equal footing with everybody, so everybody's always on the same page. And as far as in writing, if I'm not mistaken, there might be a higher cost to everything to be in writing. Does anybody have information? I don't know.
Well, when I spoke, I don't know the lines of it, but when me and Mr. Dugas did speak, he didn't say there was a problem with providing the written response. So that's something we can look into to see if there is a higher cost for that, but I really wouldn't know.
Right.
May I speak?
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Perry.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
I can't see hands.
No, I didn't put those little hands. I used my real hand because I figured that was.
I can't see the bottom.
That was I was trying to tell you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, that means.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't see that either. I'm like focused in the middle. Go ahead, Ms. Perry.
No, that's fine. I just had just to talk about the payment. When they send in the payment pieces to me, there isn't any major differentiation in pieces. They really just talk about what they're responding to so that they can be approved. I said, and then a second piece I wanted to ask, and maybe this doesn't pertain to this, but when they're talking about specifically number 6 with questions and answers in writing, is there a system that's currently in place, and I don't know this, that where the chairperson will receive those questions in writing as well as documentation, just to make sure that everybody's, voices are equally heard so that they can be sent, collectively to the lawyer?
Yes, currently the only one authorized, unless the chair is the chairperson. The chairperson can authorize, say if I'm running this might be something I would have to ask as a committee as we get deeper into bylaws, is running changes by legal for more complicated policies or something like that. Instead of me going through Ms. Brown, she can authorize me to ask the questions directly or authorize that person, but we would still have to follow the in writing thing at that point. But as far as us writing down the questions, no, I don't even think this might not even. Yeah, this should cover all of that. Did I answer your question? I feel like I might have missed something.
No, well, you said that right now that there's no current structure for you all writing down questions. I just want to make sure, because what I'm interpreting from what I'm hearing is that there's been a lack of transparency in regards to questions and getting the answers out there that have been requested by other board members. So I'm just making sure and asking the question, then making sure that there is a system in place so that all the questions are recorded equally from board members. So that way there's always a reference point for the chairperson, just in case there's ever a question of inequities. That's
Right.
all.
That this should, as written, I believe it should apply to all parties, and that would be, the chair would be the gatekeeper. So if I ask the question, the chairman would copy the rest of the board on that question. And then when they get the answer, copy the board on the answer. So we're all on the same equitable footing as far as information is concerned. And I'm sorry, Dr. Baldwin, I saw your hand, but I forgot it.
Yeah, and I think your last statement, Mr. Sokolovic, is an important one, that it's about the communication, whatever one board member may have asked, that all board members learn about the question and also, more importantly, learn about the legal response. And so, as such, I would recommend the language that you have there. I think we can just make it clearer, where in black it says the chairman, which we're going to switch to chairperson, deems it to be appropriate, period. And then perhaps write something like, the chairperson will distribute to all board members the written legal opinion of board counsel.
Makes sense, but I'm not able to put that into a motion to get copied down. Mr. Lombard, do you agree with the rephrasing?
Yes.
Okay.
Dr. Would you please say that one more time so that they can do the motion?
Oh, wait, yeah, pause for a second.
Okay.
I make a motion to incorporate the following words by Dr. Baldwin.
For item number 6, the last sentence, which would be new to the language of the chairperson bylaw, would say the chairperson will distribute to all Board of Education members the written legal opinion provided by the board counsel.
And
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, awesome. So as written, Ms. Santos, do you have that?
I have it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, and then on to line 7. Again, chairperson, line 8, chairperson only changed. Line 9, chairperson only changed. Line 10, chairperson only changed. Line 11, chairperson only changed. Line 12, chairperson changed and new language was added. Let me read it.
Okay,
First,
can we scroll down a little bit
yes. Who's got to scroll it? Yep.
to line 12? Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to read it out first as it was, and then as I think it should. The chairman shall have the authority to invite legal counsel to address the board at any board meeting regarding process. Wait. See, this was in the chairperson. What? Oh, upon a majority vote of the board. Was the new language. Okay, that's why I'm having trouble. Okay, let me start over. And I'm gonna read it as it is proposed. The chairperson added language upon a majority vote in the board shall have the authority to invite legal counsel to address the board at any board meeting regarding process, procedure, or substantive matter. When the chairperson, I did not add the word chairperson, deems it would be in the best interest of the board to do so. The reason for this proposal is our legal fees are quite costly. And we've had just random times where they appeared and nobody in the board knew they were coming or why they were coming. And there was a cost incurred that may not have been necessary, that could have been resolved with just a simple phone call. Lombard, thoughts?
Yeah, this one doesn't sit well with me. It basically almost means that the majority or the board would need to know what the council is in order to vote and whether or not it's necessary to have the council tell them about it. So it almost requires the council to share the opinion or whatever it is so that the board could vote whether or not they want to hear that opinion. So it
Right.
doesn't, to me, it kind of is, it falls back on itself.
Right,
That's
well,
it.
actually, right, I'm sorry.
That's it.
You
That's
done?
it.
Okay. So let me counter that with, we back up to the policy we just basically approved to push towards the full board. That question from the chair would be inclusive, because the chair is a member of the board. If the chairperson got a question from the board, the chairperson should be expected to copy the board on that question and the opinion as well. So we would have an idea.
No, I understand, but what this is talking about for explaining process and procedure, not the opinion, but the process and procedure related to the matter. And I don't think that would have to be something separately spelled out, you know. So I don't know, I like the idea that in communication, because even though these things will be shared, that information from item number 2 or 6 it was, may be shared possibly in the meeting. Like all board members will be privy to the information, but just when they get it, will it be before the meeting? Will it be during the meeting? And either way, that's just the opinion. It's not necessarily a thorough explanation of the application of it with process and procedure. So I feel like the point person, which if it usually is the chairperson, although it may be, as that item says, it may be another board member that the chairperson designated, but that person has a little more inside knowledge beyond just the written summary. And so I feel like they may be able to say, you know what, we need a further explanation of this beyond what just this written summary of the opinion states. So, yeah.
So let me throw a scenario. If I was a single person and I got married to somebody on a law firm, and I became chair, I would have the authority to have all by myself legal counsel drive to the board meeting. Yeah, I think they charge us for 1 hour travel time or one-way trip, and incur additional costs. The language I'm proposing is not new or radical. It's the language that was it was the prior language. So that being said, do you have anything to say against that, or does that change your opinion in any way?
Again, I'd like to hear, the others' opinions as well from their experience. And I did not know that this was the prior language as it stated before. That's the first time hearing that. So, any other opinions?
Mr. Benahan? Chairperson Brown?
I don't see her connected anymore.
Oh, she wasn't that knocked off. All right, so we got.
I'm here, sorry,
Yes.
were you asking guys? Yeah, I'm sorry. Could you repeat the question? If there was a question, I'm losing service. I'm at Hardin, so I just got back in my car.
All right, so the current language under debate is the board, upon a majority vote, may authorize legal counsel to serve as a Oh wait, no, I'm sorry, I skipped to the next one. Number 12. The chairperson, upon a majority vote of the board, which is new language, shall have the authority to invite legal counsel to address the board at any meeting regarding process, procedures, or substantive matters, when the chairperson deems it would be in the best interest of the board to do so. The language I added was upon the majority vote of the board, which is the language that used to be. And the intention is to prevent, not yourself, a future chair from abusing the privileges and increasing the costs of the board, because we do get charged for the lawyer driving to the meeting and sitting in meetings. We do incur costs for that. So that's just mainly a check and balance for like the rogue chair calling favored people to make extra money for no reason. And I think it falls in line with number 6. And Mr. Lombard currently disagrees with that. I'm in favor of it. Mr. Lombard, you could state your disagreement again, so Ms. Brown could have the benefit of it.
Yeah, so Ms. Brown, I feel this way because if a opinion has been formed and shared with the board, but the chairperson, who would be the designee, because that's the person that was speaking with the attorney directly, feels it would be beneficial for it to be explained as far as how it would affect process and procedure and substantive matters. That's specifically what this is talking about. It's not about the opinion. It's about how process, procedure, and substantive matter is applied here. Feels that would be helpful for the board. I feel that the board wouldn't know that it needed that. The only way it would know that it would needed that is if it was explained to them, and then they'd vote on whether or not they needed that. So I feel like it's kind of it's almost, you know, in order for them to even understand that, it would have to be explained to them. So I feel like it's if that's needed, it's the expense would be spent in just explaining to them that they need an explanation. That's kind of how I feel about it. I feel like if it needs to happen, it needs to happen. And so that's, I don't know how this would roll out in practice other than just bringing the attorney there to explain it. So I'm for the way it is. However, this is also the first I heard that these words, upon a majority vote of the board, were there. I guess word for word, they were removed. That's something new to me.
It might not be word for word, Mr. Lombard.
Do you have a copy of the original language you're referring to?
Let me see.
I'd be curious to see what it was and why it was changed, and we're going back and forth, it seems.
Well, while Ms. Sullivan, I too agree, because we are not lawyers on the board. And as you can see, we've referred to the lawyer on the board or the person that understands the law just a little bit better for clarification on certain items. I do think I understand the value of the cost, but I'm also at the same thing is like we're not the people who are the specialties in that area, and anything can get lost in translation. As honest as we're trying to be to make sure it's clear for the board members to understand, it can happen. Even with the, even with the written response, it could be taken the wrong way or explained the wrong way, but clarity could be only provided by the legal counsel. So that's kind of how I feel about it. And I've seen it happen at our own board meetings where had we not had legal counsel, we all probably would have been just as confused about process or about guidance on what decisions or what would help us make the best decision or best vote for a situation that may have occurred. So I totally understand what you're saying, Mr. Sokolovic, but I do agree with Mr. Lombard because we're not the individuals who know the area that best, and it may be translation that can get things confused.
And something I'd like to add, Mr. Sokolovic, is actually maybe more important is that the majority of the board would have the right to ask for the attorney to be present. You know, for the reason that Chairperson Brown just stated, sometimes it can get lost in translation. And if the board is relying on the interpretation of the chairperson, who was the direct contact with the attorney, there may not be confidence that that person is relaying it accurately, not intentionally necessarily, but just not accurately. So maybe more than anything, there should be the ability for the board to request the attorney to be present. So that's just a different thought.
Okay, yes, I like that thought.
I have some experience with this, so I'd like to weigh in on
Yes,
number
Dr.
12. So adding the language upon a majority of the board for the attorney to come to speak to the board about processes, procedures, or substantive matters. One of the things we're so focused on how that's going to happen, whether it's going to happen by a majority vote or whether we're going to agree that the chairperson can just do it. In my experience, the decision to have legal counsel come to speak to the board on a substantive matter occurs between the conversation between the superintendent and the board chair, because something has occurred, whether it's a significant employee matter that there's a lot of exposure for the district, or whether it's an issue related to facilities and health and safety. And so, and there's some component where the administration cannot determine the best course of action, that there's a need for legal guidance. And I think while we do need to be mindful of incurring costs, I also think there are times when districts incur costs because they don't seek out the guidance and expertise of others. I think some of the times that the board needs to hear from legal counsel is also time sensitive. And to Mr. Lombard's point, really what with the new language added in, it's saying that the board chair knows that there's an issue. In all likelihood, the board chair knows about this because of a conversation and a matter with the superintendent. And then we have to wait for a meeting and then get the majority of the board to approve it. And then we have to schedule with the attorney when the chairperson could have, by bylaw, had the authority with the understanding that the attorney is going to come to the board meeting and address the whole board on this significant either process, procedure, or substantive matter. So it'd be my recommendation that the language of upon a majority vote of the board not be included. And then somewhere in a different bylaw, Mr. Lombard, we include this notion of a majority of the board could ask for an attorney to come to the board. I don't think it belongs in official duties of the chairperson, but it might belong in some other bylaw that we could take a look at.
Yes.
Yeah, I definitely had I will propose to make a motion to, Mr. Benahan, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going back what Mr. Lombard said, and you know, so it's everything. I agree with you, Mr. Joe. Sorry, but we have to be careful when it's about legal situation, because I feel that any wrong word we say, they will change it the other way, and then we're gonna have legal issues. So we have to be careful with that. So I'm agree with what Mr. Lombard said in the beginning. So I just want to say that for the comment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mrs. Brown.
I do understand Ms. Baldwin's point with the whole entire back and forth that it may cause just by getting a vote for this particular thing. I would like to see, or if possible, whenever you guys have that, where we could place that somewhere else. Because now I'm listening to process and just speaking from experience, and I know I can't say what the future board chair will do, but just speaking from experience, Ms. Perrin and I have had moments where we needed to talk amongst ourselves, but also too needed legal guidance for items that it was time sensitive and we needed to make a decision. And, I just think that time sensitive piece is so important because we can't provide you the full board without full information if we're not clear on, the timeline of certain things. I feel like I'm rambling, but I just want to say I agree with Ms. Baldwin on that piece. Okay, because it makes sense.
Right, and y'all convinced me I'm wrong. So therefore, I will entertain a motion to strike from this document.
Mr. Sokolovic,
Yes, Ms. Perrin.
I just wanted to make a statement. I had a question.
Sorry.
Because I definitely agree with Dr. Baldwin and Mr. Lombard in regards to it, especially for the time-sensitive manners. But if there was just a question, was it a question of not knowing that this was going to happen? Because if so, we could possibly look at adding language about where it says the chairperson shall have the authority to invite legal counsel to address the board at any board meeting regarding process, procedures, and or substantive matters with prior written notice when the chairperson deems it would be best interest of the board to do so. And that way it will be a notification so that you'll know that they're coming, but it wouldn't give an opportunity for them not to be invited. So I didn't know if it was the notification piece or you were looking for something else.
Oh, that would be quite helpful, and I think that's a great middle ground, Mr. Lombard.
Sure, yeah, to let us know. I'm trying to think of the best place to put that in, though. Substantive matter.
Just maybe right after chairperson.
I'm thinking where it says regarding process, procedures, substantive matters, and notif. And maybe instead of with prior written notice, or I don't know,
Prior
maybe
written notice to the entire board.
Something like that. Prior
Like
notice
right after chairman and followed by another comma, or in parentheses.
No, I think where Ms. Perrin was saying it, with prior notice to the board, when the chairperson deems it would be in the best interest, that might be a good spot where she said it. But to say with prior notice to the board, or something, so we know who the notice is going to.
Correct. Okay. So, all right. First, let's get a motion to strike upon a majority vote of the board. And get rid of that. Mr. Lombard.
Oh, sorry. Did you make a motion that I'm second?
I didn't make the motion. I said let's get a motion, but
okay. So I make a motion to strike upon a majority, or to not add upon a majority vote of the board.
And I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And now I'll entertain a motion to add. Where are we adding it?
Right after substantive matters, I think.
Yes.
So I make a motion to add the language that's going to be stated by Superintendent Perrin.
With prior notice to the board.
Right after substantive matters, correct? Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ms. Santos, did you track all that?
Copy.
Thank you. Sorry to keep asking, but I just want to double check everything.
Nope, that's okay.
And just
Thank
make
you.
sure about that chairperson where it wasn't.
Yeah.
typed.
Oh, yeah. Correct. To add the chairperson after chairman's crossed out that I missed. And basically, as a practice, anywhere we miss chairperson being added where chairman is, feel free to just add that. Okay, and number
Copy.
13, again with the upon a majority may authorize legal counsel to serve as parliamentarian at any board meetings.
So
Now,
what
Mary-
exactly does that mean? I mean, in this case, using that word there, parliamentarian, what are they doing as in that role? What does that
That
mean?
would be if, say, we got a chairman that absolutely had no clue what they were doing and had no clue about Robert's Rules of Order, and ran very ineffective meetings and ran roughshod, like allowed people just to shout out, call the question, and just trample on everybody's rights. We could utilize the legal for a parliamentarian.
So the way it's written now, the chairperson would know this about themselves and therefore ask the legal counsel to do that?
Right, yeah, and it makes no sense, because if you have an effective chairman, as we do in this point in time, we would not need a parliamentarian because the parliamentary rules would be followed.
Well, just so I further understand what this is meaning. So this is someone who basically is moderating the meeting. It's right. So my thought is possibly why this was here, because it's the way it is now, the chairperson is the one who would ask for this. So
Right.
they wouldn't necessarily be looking at themselves negatively. Maybe they would think that, you know what? This is a contentious issue and meeting as things are happening. I would like to have someone else. I'm going to hand the gavel over for this one meeting to have the legal counsel moderate this, because I'm in a hot seat here and I'm not necessarily able to garner the, say respect or, cooperation. Is that why this would have been there? I'm trying to understand.
No, because the parliamentary's role is just to rule on actions. We've already got, if say, we've got a chair that has a conflict of interest or feels such a way, that chair could always defer to the vice chair, who could defer to the. We've already got a process in place to.
So I'm just trying to understand why the chairperson would want this, because that's how it's written originally.
Right. Yeah, and that's something that did carry over from the last bylaws as well. And for the record, I could not find what I was referring to earlier, but this one I just saw. That was there before, and now that you mention it, it gives me a whole new idea to change, because if the chairperson, in fact, is not as adept as Chairperson Brown when we go forward, we may need to lean on a parliamentarian to educate that board chair and work in conjunction with the board chair during meetings until that board chair finds their legs. Does that make sense?
That's how you have it written now, the board. So
No, excuse me, Joe. I mean, it's still on board. Right now I have it written the chair. Oh, all right, I do. You're right. Sorry. The board. Okay, right.
I think the way this is proposed doesn't even belong on this bylaw, on this policy, because it's not a chairperson policy. It's completely separate.
Right. So we.
Correct.
I think, yeah.
So you're looking to strike this entire line, and before I can vote on it, I want to understand why a chairperson would want to defer. What's an example where they would want to defer? Why is it there at all? Is it necessary?
Right. Yeah, I could probably think of something. If you got a novice chair who, on the other side of the coin, a novice chair who's doing things the right way but is a little unsure of themselves. Got somebody like, I'll use myself an example, who wants to take advantage of the fact and has maybe a little more experience to say, no, that's not the way it's done. These aren't the rules we're supposed to follow. I've been here 6 years. We're supposed to do it this way. And the chair would feel pressured or what have you and think, okay, maybe defer or not. But if the chair would ask a parliamentary to be there to clear up some false assertions made by the person with experience with bad intentions, that might be a situation that a parliamentarian there. Mr. Benahan, I'm sorry, Richard. Benahan, Albert Alexander.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe the parliamentarian is the person that had to contact something if the meeting is out of order or someone of the board members or someone of the public had to go, is out of order. So that person tried to control the meeting or let another person, you need to be out for a few minutes, to come back. So I just want to, you clarify with that with me?
Right. So right now, there's been a few times in this meeting we unintentionally talked over each other, but we were respectful and we stopped. So say I was running this meeting and you and Mr. Lombard got into a heated back and forth argument, and I just did absolutely nothing to call you out of order or anything. The parliamentarian would then rise and say, excuse me, there's a breach of order according to Robert's rules. People aren't supposed to talk over each other. The floor belongs to so-and-so and this and that. And they could point out the errors of the chair in this case would be my ways. And, or if as I'm talking right now, Ms. Brown will say, I call a question. And I say, okay, let's go, let's vote. That would be out of order too. And the parliamentary could point out that Ms. Brown couldn't call a question legally without having the floor pointed to her because she interrupted the speaker.
All right, thank you. And can we see you a little more, Mr. Chair? Because we see you half of your body.
I'm sorry, I slouch. I have no posture.
Thank you.
Dr. Baldwin?
Yes, thank you. I think to Mr. Lombard's point, the strike through of chairman and replace with board, certainly we can't even contemplate that in this bylaw because this bylaw deals specifically with the official duties of the chairperson. That being said, I think that the other piece of this that might be contemplated would be you need the legal counsel to serve as a parliamentarian because the board may in fact have some political challenge in front of them, a decision that is, for whatever reason, more hotly contested along political lines. And the board chair person in his or her political affiliation feels like that they would be better served to have an unaffiliated person, such as the board legal counsel, to conduct the rules and procedures, Robert's rules, and the voting process, and to maintain the conduct of the meeting. Those are situations that I recognize where the legal counsel could serve in that role. And so I think that would be not by a majority vote. It would be by the chairperson recognizing for him or herself that this issue is very volatile. It's falling along political lines. We've tried to get votes accomplished. We haven't been able to. It's back on the agenda. Therefore, and this might go to Ms. Parent's point too, where we notice the board, where the chairperson has to notice the board that I'm asking legal counsel to serve as parliamentarian at the next board meeting because we really need to make a decision on this, and I feel like I can't, that I can't lead the process because I've tried it once already. That's what I envision this means in the bylaw.
Okay, so how about this? I'm hearing everybody's concerns, and rather than just strike the whole thing, because we're gonna have the chairperson. I was considering at first, Mr. Lombard said maybe it doesn't belong here at all. It's like, yeah, maybe it belongs under a separate legal counsel and what their roles and responsibilities are. But I think a better way might be to put the chairperson back to chairperson, or a majority of the board may authorize legal counsel to serve as parliamentarian at any board meeting. That would take care of both issues at the same time, and it'd be all encompassing. Thoughts, Mr. Lombard?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair because that chairperson may not see their own conflict, and the majority of the board does. So that might be a good opportunity, good mechanism for the rest of the board to call on that. So,
And that still allows the chairperson the flexibility to call it if there's a need that the chairperson sees that we do not. Any other comments? And I'll phrase it in a motion with the language.
I think that's a great addition, Mr. Sokolovic.
Thank you. Okay, so I make a motion for line 13 to read the chairperson of the board or a majority of board members may authorize legal counsel to serve as parliamentarian at any board meeting.
second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. And since this one has so much discussion attached to it, I'm not going to go for the express on this one. I'm not going to ask for a motion for that. Okay, so now next up on the agenda is the official duties of the vice, currently chairman, 9220.
I'm sorry, is this a document you're referring to?
No, it's 9220. If you could look in the last email I sent to Ms. Santos or Dr. Baldwin, if you could see those, that encompasses.
Okay, okay.
And this one, the only changes it encompasses is changing chairman to chairperson. It should be an easy one. Everywhere where chairperson is, where chairman is struck out and chairperson added. No, that's not it.
All right, these are the only documents that I have. Let me check further.
Jeff, I just
Yes.
sent you all of the policies, okay? So that you can have them. I just shared everything with you.
You just sent it to me, okay.
And just for the record, these are the unedited ones. So this isn't anything that you would have forwarded to me, Mr. Sokolovic.
Okay,
This is
wait,
what's in the actual board packet.
okay, so hold on. Let's see if this one. Just sent one. Maybe I didn't include you on that one. Let me just see. Sent. Please. Alright. Listen, if you give me 1 minute, I could send the one that's changed. It's in 3. Send a copy. That's you're on here, Mr. Postolowski. If I send it to you too, you'll be able to see it. Hold on.
That's not Mr. Postolowski.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Okay.
This is
I thought
Jeffrey.
Brown.
Yes, this is
My
Mr. Jeffrey Brown
J.
from
Brown,
IT. He's J Brown 4
J. Brown 4 at Bridgeport.
at Bridgeport.
Yeah. All right, I just sent it to you, Mr. Brown. It should be popping up any second now. It'll start with 9210, but it was all encompassed on one page.
Okay.
I should have known that wasn't Jeff's voice. And if you scroll down, you'll see 9220. I mean, 9220.
9210.
All right, next, keep going down, please. It's the next page. Okay, oops, go back up, please. Back up, please.
This is
Okay,
9220.
and then- correct. And as we can all see, the only changes are changing chairperson, chairman to chairperson. If anybody has anything else they would like to change or amend,
No.
feel free to. So I guess we could have any comments, discussions? No. So I'll make a motion to accept the official duties of vice chairman as amended, the language of chairperson, policy number 9220.
So move, or second, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. I'm going back and forth, making them in. So, yes, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I'd like to make another motion to just, since this one's simply just a language change, to fast track that by passing the first and second read by suspending the bylaw that references it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, opposed? Okay, now next up is motion carried. Next up is 9230, which is next on the page. Again, only language change is chairman to chairperson. So unless we have any further discussion, seeing none, I'll make a motion to accept the changes to official duties, secretary bylaw 9230 as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now next up.
Do you want to fast track that one too?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Lombard. Yes, I'd also make a motion to, as the chair, to put this on the agenda with bypassing the first and second read for immediate adoption by bypassing the bylaw. I'll send the language. Bypassing the bylaw.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so next up on the agenda, 9260, removal of board officers.
Where's that one?
Resignation. Did I make any edits to it?
I don't think that's in this document.
Yeah, that's
Is it
not,
No, it's not in this document. It's in, I think you should have that one already, though. It should be labeled in the emails. Removal of offices.
I shared it with you earlier.
You emailed it to me, you're saying?
Yes,
All right, thank you.
you're welcome.
Not that one, I don't think. It should say removal of offices. Did you put that? Was that still the heading, Ms. Santos, Mr. Santos, Mr. Jesus Santos?
Ms. Santos is just fine, Mr. Sokolovic.
Okay.
I left everything exactly the way you had it until we made any changes.
There.
That's the document.
Yes. Okay, the changes on this one may have some discussion. Removing a board member for cause by, used to be 2/3, changing to the majority vote of the members present at a duly called meeting. The reason I raised this up is because in order to censure or discipline a ordinary run-of-the-mill board member, you only need a majority of the board. To remove board chair, you need 2/3, which is a supermajority. So I think the way the chair gets voted in should be the same way the board gets voted out for misconduct.
I'm more comfortable with the 2/3. As you know, we were a part of this recently, a couple years ago, and it just concerns me that as the board membership changes every 2 years and majorities change, it could become too, I don't know. I'm just not comfortable with the idea of it being as easy as they were voted on. I
Right.
think that for something such a strong action to remove someone from office, I'm more comfortable with it remaining 2/3. So that's where I am with that.
All right, can you flesh that out a bit more, your argument a bit, if you don't mind, as to the rationale you're disagreeing with?
yeah, I mean,
No, it's fine. Let me give me a
all right, go ahead.
flesh out question. A new majority coming on the board. Your concern is that new majority might do something.
No, I don't think that was accurate on my part when I said that. It's what came to my mind, but really more than anything, I just feel like such a strong disciplinary action should really be a strong number of board members that takes it. I know that in the case that I was a part of, I believe it did come down to 6 and 3, but it was strong enough that many people were in agreement. And if it wasn't, then maybe it shouldn't have happened. But it was that strong, so it did happen. I just feel like for taking someone out of office, that's just the way it seems to me. I think it's there for a reason. But I also do appreciate what you're saying, that they got elected on by a majority. They could be taken off by a majority, but I still feel like it should be something stronger. That's just my thoughts. I don't have prior experience with other boards and other districts, so I'm not familiar with how it's done. So
I believe it
Mr.
goes
Chair?
both ways. Go ahead, Ms. Brown, Chair Brown. Did you have something to say, Ms.
Mr.
Brown?
Chair. Yeah, I'm just a little confused. So I understand that we are elected to the board. Are you saying that individual who holds an office on the board
yes,
versus
Executive
okay,
officers,
so
yes. Not throw you.
Yeah, so
We can't throw
executive
anybody
so-
off the board.
right. So I think that needed to be clear, because I don't know, for me it sounded like we're saying that an individual board member, no office, but just holds a seat on the board, can be removed by a majority.
No.
Okay,
That
just want to
would
clear.
be, that would be a violation of several state statutes.
Okay, I just want to make sure that was clear.
Mr. Benahan?
Mr. Benahan's not on. He sent us a message that he had to get off. He had another meeting.
Okay. Dr. Baldwin, you've been in a couple of districts. How have you experienced this?
It's rare that the board needs to take action to remove an officer or a board member. The 2/3 vote is what I am familiar with. And I think it corresponds with the severity and the challenge of the decision making. It takes the governing body, the board, 9 members in this case, and it's such a serious decision-making framework that it's saying to the 9-member board, 2/3 of you have to vote affirmatively to remove this officer because of the significance of the action. And I think board members, they get on their seat by a majority of the population, of the people who chose to vote. It's very different once they serve and they get the majority of the board's vote to serve as an officer. I think something significant has occurred where they've lost trust, they've behaved in such a way that it's unbecoming to the board, it's a distraction to the board, it's toxic to the board. All of that, I think, requires a 2/3 vote of the governing body.
I also want to identify here that there's two things in this proposal, I believe. One is talking about majority vote instead of 2/3, but the other indicates members present at a duly called meeting. So that's a whole other thing too. It looks like it was 2/3 of the board, or I'm not quite sure how it was meant to be interpreted before, or was it 2/3 of the members at that meeting? You know, so that's a separate thing that's being proposed here. I think.
Right, I hear you, Mr. Lombard, and to be honest, I don't remember if I cut that word board out or not as I was doing this. But I do believe it was 2/3 of the board, and you do bring up a very important point, because our board at times is non-responsive to coming to meetings and what have you, and it could keep going in 2/3 member. So if we're gonna leave the 2/3, I think we definitely should leave vote of the members at a duly called meeting.
But what was it meant to be before? Was it because it wasn't stated that way? Was it meant to be 2/3 of the board?
Does anybody have access to the original right now in the packet? Can we put it up side by side by any chance? Let me see if I can pull it. Files. I do not want to misspeak again. Not a good look. Files. 2019.
So the language, I can send it to Jeffrey Brown, but the language reads, prior to, an officer of the board may be removed for cause by a 2/3 vote of the entire board.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, it's
So,
super
yeah.
conservative. It's super conservative. It's 2/3, not majority, and its entire board, not just who's present. So
Right.
we're really moving in a different direction.
Right. So would you be willing for compromise language, 2/3 of members present and voting? Because we might have basically people who just drop off who don't want to weigh in for political purposes, and just because you could very easily use maneuvers. Just don't show up this meeting. They'll need 6 votes if they got whatever have you, and it's not going to happen.
I'm reading this more. Yeah, I'm real hesitant. That's where I am with that. I'm real hesitant to loosen this too much. Yes, I'm Joe. Ms. Perrin's got her hand up.
Yes, Ms. Perrin.
When I read this and I compare it to the previous policy, I'm aligned with Mr. Lombard in the fact that we're making a substantive change to this policy if we say that we're going to be going with the members present at a duly called meeting, because of the severity of removing a board officer, and we're limiting the capacity of board members to be able to state their claim even if they're not at the meeting. I think that can become problematic, because I know that there are members of the board who, are not always present, some for varied reasons, and we understand that as well. But I think when we're having these broader conversations about the removal of a board officer, I think we really need to think long and hard before amending the language that just talks about members that are present.
Okay, so I see where this is going. Let's have a motion to table this, because this doesn't appear to have any changes, and leave it as is.
Yeah, so move. Leave it as is. Yes, so move.
second that. We need 3 people on this board. Can I get another committee to break ties? Because we can't move it with 2 of us. Joe and I had this agreement, and there's no way to move it to the board. If I want it to the board, if he wants it to the board, there's no way. We need a tiebreaker. Hopefully, we get a new member for the next meeting to go either way.
So, Mr. Sokolovic, are you making a motion to strike the language that's here?
No, just motion to strike the whole thing, to just drop the whole thing.
Okay.
So the language, the current bylaw
So-
will remain in effect for the removal of officers. Not saying it'll never come back to committee, but at this current time, it's dead.
So you want to take a vote on that?
Sure. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. It's gone. It's not going to be presented to the full board. Next up, where's my agenda?
9270? Is it?
Correct, your resignation. And I don't know if I gave anybody that, so you're gonna have to pull it from the regular packet. I can't even find my copy of that. I believe that's something that might have a minor change to it.
Yeah, sorry.
It has chairman.
Is that the one? I can't find mine because somebody put it on the screen.
Excuse me. May I speak?
Yes,
Sorry.
please.
I just
No
want to
worries.
let Jeff, that is in the email that I just sent you because there isn't one with any changes from Mr. Sokolovic. So the email that I just sent you that said policies, it should be 9270.
I'm pointing at it like you can see my finger. Okay, I remember why I put this. We just recently had a little confusion over this. Town clerk. And traditionally it was going to the city clerk, if I'm not mistaken. But this actually is what the state statute states city clerk, town clerk, or municipal clerk. And one of our members had brought it to town clerk, and there was some issue whether it should go to the city clerk or not. So I just want to explore a little if we want to add the city clerk to this language, because that's what has been traditionally done. But if it goes to the town clerk, it is not against law. Any thoughts?
So it's either one, city clerk or town clerk?
Correct, and that's the state statute, but there was some recent confusion because normally by practice, we've been doing it to the city clerk, but our bylaws say the town clerk, which is also an effective way to do it.
Well, then, yeah, I mean,
And going to the city clerk as everybody up until the most recent resignee has resigned. 1 second, Dr. Baldwin, I see you. Everybody who has resigned in the past has done so with the city clerk, which actually, if you read this bylaw, has been done actually in violation of the bylaw, but not in violation of state statute, because it encompasses both. Yes, Dr. Baldwin.
you mentioned the third option too. What was the other one?
I think it was municipal officer, but we don't have one of those, so I didn't really focus. That's probably for smaller towns. Dr. Baldwin?
The one piece I would point out is on the bottom of this policy, it cites the legal references. And what you want to make sure is that the language we have is consistent with the language of the city charter. When the board experienced an earlier resignation, Ms. Perrin and I reviewed the charter to make sure that we both fully understood the process. So my only sort of recommendation would be that we make sure that if we insert city clerk, which makes sense, that it is in alignment with the charter, because I think it's not. I think this language is verbatim from the charter.
I couldn't actually find it in the charter. Do you know where Do you know?
Yeah, we looked at boards and commissions, and then we looked at the Board of Ed language, and it was in the city charter
And it's in
under
conf-
Board of Education.
Right, and it's in conflict?
I think that this language, as presented here, aligns directly with the language of the charter. And so to insert language, which makes sense, just means that it might be in conflict with the charter.
Hmm.
So we should just take a look at that. I can pull it up online.
Yeah, because from my recollection, the issue started when the city clerk said it went to the wrong place. And according to the bylaw, right here, it went to the right place. Am I mischaracterizing that?
No.
Yeah, because if there's only one place in the charter we should send it. Because if it does say town clerk, everybody who resigned in the past would probably still be a board member today because their resignation wouldn't be official. And in the case of a conflict, because I know the state statute has, because I was just in there. I don't have it to pull up right now, that it does have multitudes ways of resigning. The commas and or is not a hierarchy.
Joe, also just, again, it does say chairman.
Oh, thank you. Can we make that amendment where, Joe?
In the second line, town clerk to the board chairman and secretary.
Okay, can we strike through chairman, highlight it, put it in red, and put chairperson in its place, please?
Captured.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Lombard.
Mhm.
This is peppered everywhere. Oh.
Yeah.
And the ironic thing is, in the old bylaws that were changed in 19 minutes, every single person where chairman appears here used to be chairperson.
Hmm. For you love.
Dr. Baldwin, if you're not having any luck, I mean, it's a very unwieldy document because I was in there trying to find it. It's like hundreds of pages, and
Yeah, I'm not having luck, but I do like to persevere.
right. But we could actually postpone this or send it to the city attorney and not incur any costs to review for changes. And it'll take it's nothing that's really pressing, because if somebody wants to resign, they're gonna resign, and they just send it to two places just to be sure it won't be hurtful or whatever have you. But I don't see this as a real pressing need to change immediately. So I think we could take a pause and send it to the city attorney's office and not incur any costs. Oh, that's another thing about talking about the attorneys. We don't only have to use the city attorney, the paid attorney. We also could avail ourselves of the city attorney in areas where it's convenient and warranted. So there's that as well. So do we want to table this until another time and send it to the city attorney?
Yeah, move to table this until it's reviewed by city attorney.
And I shall second. And either Dr. Baldwin or Ms. Perrin, could you see that this gets to the city attorney's office for review?
Yes, I made a note.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next item on the
Joe, all in favor? All in
Oh, I'm
favor?
sorry, Mr. Lombard. Thank you for pointing that out. Aye.
Aye.
Hey, you want to chair the rest?
Let's get that parliamentarian in here. Come on.
All right, now we got policy 9280 committees. Can we please bring that up on the screen? So. Well, that was quick. Committees. Do we have my changes on this one? Let's see, I think they're further down.
Well, in the packet, there were no changes on any of them. It was only the ones you emailed separately.
All right, there were, okay, yeah, can, the,
Excuse me, again, sorry, permission to speak?
yes, go ahead and send us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jeff, that's gonna be in a separate email, the one with Mr. Sokolovic's, changes and additions. And it would have had the title of committee.
Timeline, governance. There it is. Oh, I missed the chairman again. In one. Line 1, 2, 3, 4. Line 4, we need to strike chairman and insert chairperson, please.
Captured.
Okay, thank you. All right, so proposed changes are, I inserted a line of letter G,
What?
and it says, any change to committee assignments made subsequent to the filing of the list to the superintendent shall be approved by the members affected or a majority of the full board. Can we guess why I'm inserting that language?
You want to talk about this? This is your proposal?
Sure, but this proposal is, as we all know, I'm not gonna name any names, certain board members have lost their committees twice over their tenure, just by the full discretion of a chairperson who did not like that board member's words. It had nothing to do with the committee work or anything. And I believe both times, the majority of the board disagreed with that decision, but they had no power to do anything about that decision. So that's like basically an availability for the chairperson to discipline somebody without going through process and procedures to discipline that person. This would eliminate that, and if the chairperson would like to say, I'll go to using names, Ms. Brown say, she didn't like an email I sent, she's gonna remove me from all committees, we have no recourse. But if I would say, no, I would like to keep my committees, she could go to the entire board and say, Mr. Sokolovich sent a mean email, it was quite offensive. I think he should lose all his committees and the board has to justify that decision or support that decision of the chair.
And then to go along with this, oh, do you have your hand up, Ms. Perrin?
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
I'm just reading it. It says any change to committee assignments made subsequent to filing the list to the superintendent shall be approved by the members of the affected or a majority. Okay, so it's
Correct.
not both, it's just or. All
Yeah,
right.
either or, because we'll have situations where maybe I get too busy for a certain committee at a certain time. I say, I'll ask the chair, can you switch my committee because it's not working out for whatever reason, and somebody else agrees to serve on that. That process doesn't need to be convoluted. And this doesn't take away the discretion of the chairperson to assign committees at the beginning of the year. It just takes away a tool that has been used to bludgeon certain individuals.
Okay, I just want to make sure it doesn't say and, because I look at it from the perspective of if there's a rogue member who is doing things they shouldn't, and he or she needs to be removed from their position, that they don't have to necessarily be in agreement. So I just wanted to make sure to say.
Right,
Okay.
so long as there's a majority of the board that would support the decision to remove. Thoughts? Mr. Lombard?
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. Yeah, I don't think people should be, targeted and sacrificed and, all that stuff. I agree that there should be protections of board members in some way. At the same time, committee membership and makeup is at the discretion of the chair, as is stated further up. So putting someone on is at the discretion of the chair. So you would think taking them off should be at the discretion of the chair. So I don't know that these two might not, I think these two might contradict each other in a way, or work against each other. So I'm wondering if there's some other way of, addressing that problem in some way.
Not necessarily so, Mr. Lombard. Let me point to the beginning of the paragraph, back to one. Maybe create committee members and chairs shall be appointed by the new language chairperson by filing a list with the superintendent's office. They will always have that ability as soon as possible following the organizational meeting. So that's usually the first meeting in January or what have you. Now, the same way we just voted and talked about leaving the 2/3, because it's very important to protect the chair at all costs to make sure a very big decision. Removing people from committees is a very big decision, and it should be made with the impact of the board considered. Because in the past, the person with the greatest attendance records and the person whose committees moved the most things was removed from the committee simply because they sent an email with all caps. And that was me. It had nothing to do with committee performance or anything like that. Yes, Dr. Baldwin.
I think you make a strong distinction. And so when I read change to committee assignments, while removing someone is a change, I think perhaps the intent of that language, a change to a committee assignment, would be saying, Mr. Lombard, we have some significant work taking place on student and families. Would you be willing to move to student and families? And we'll move someone else to governance. That's a change in the committee assignment made after it was filed. And so I would just leave the change language as was originally developed and perhaps propose an E that the board can talk about here. What would removal of a committee assignment look like? And perhaps it should look, letter E, removal requires a 2/3 vote of the board, similar to what we asked officers. That way it's a distinction, because it gives a lot of leeway to the chairperson to change committee assignments.
Right. So,
but not remove somebody.
Right. I see what you're saying. And it wouldn't be an E, it would be just a removal of D and just replace with the language you're suggesting. Because now, could you repeat your proposal again, please? I'm sorry.
Yes, I would keep D because it's referencing a change to a committee assignment. All of the board, you all have committee assignments, and so it does allow the chairperson to make a change to committee assignments after they've already been made. So I would just keep that. And then I would add a letter E that the board can talk about in terms of removal. The removal of a board member from a committee assignment requires the 2/3 vote of the board.
Yeah, that's even more protection than I saw it. And
So wait. So D was never there in the first place.
correct.
So
Oh, okay.
that's
Yeah,
why.
I was saying.
Yeah, that's why I think Mr. Collins say it doesn't need to be there, because it was never there. It was just, if we do want to say that the chair has full discretion to change committee assignments with or with, and that, just to say it, we could, but it was just happening without it being spelled out. So maybe it should be spelled out, but that's that. But again, this is what I was saying. This is good. Something where it gives the protection specifically to when someone's being targeted. Maybe rightly so, and in that case, 2/3 would vote for it, but in any case, that would be addressing removing. So that person may be against having their committee changed and being taken off a committee and put on another one, but they're not losing committee assignments altogether. They're just losing that particular one that they might want, but that's just the way it goes, because the chairperson has the discretion to do that. But removing them from committees completely is the issue we're trying to address here because of past experiences.
And not only that, one of the committees that I'll use myself as an example, not that it's a realistic example. One of the committees I serve on is a very charged committee having to do with equity, diversity, and inclusion. And it could be a chairperson does not like the direction I'm taking the committee on, but the majority of the board does. And to slow that work down or stop that work, that chairperson could simply say, well, I'm going to change you to students and families and take away that committee from you because I think you'd be better there. And that work stops. And somebody's put in place who doesn't call meetings for about a year, or calls maybe one meeting for a year. This is a realistic example that has happened in the past. I think the language should be any more.
And the way it is now is how you like it, any change.
No, not necessarily. Dr. Baldwin does bring up a very good point about the 2/3, but the language where the chair could change committee assignments is already there. What I'm looking for is, any language that protects the forced change, the unwilling change of the board member that's already previously appointed to that committee.
I think that's what's there right now, your initial proposal, D. That's any change that the person doesn't want needs to be approved by a majority of the board. So removal, change of assignment. If the chair says, I need to move you to another committee, and you say, I don't want to, you're saying the chair should not be able to do that. There should be a majority vote that goes along with that. That's what I think what you're already proposing in D.
Correct. But I do love Dr. Baldwin's suggestion to move it to 2/3.
Yeah, I wasn't for that. I don't think it's as severe as removing someone from office. It's a much different thing.
So will you support the language as is?
Yeah, I think it's okay. I understand what you're saying. It's a sense of being targeted for a reason that's not productive. Because again, I think in most cases, it's going to be cooperation.
Correct.
The board member who's on a particular committee will say, I understand, although I like what I'm doing here, I see where it's helpful or it's needed, or someone resigned, so we need someone on that committee more than this committee, and that they're usually going to cooperate. And the other thing I think we all have to keep in mind, although time is important, everything is in a yearly cycle. These people could be voted out of that office. Or
Absolutely.
So things aren't permanent. Because anything that's unjust,
Right.
So, I mean, I actually, now that we're having this full discussion about it, I could support this. We'll see if the board supports it.
Right. And in addition, it really doesn't remove the power from the chair altogether for extreme circumstances, because there is a case where maybe I would deserve to lose, using me as an example, lose committees. Because say for instance, I'm on videotape in a confrontation with a teacher and it's really ridiculous where maybe I put hands on somebody or something like that. Then the chairman says, oh, wait, we can't have this person serving on any committees, blah, blah, blah. Of course, 5 people will definitely agree that Joe's out of control, take him off all his committees, fine.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
So,
we'll see what the full board says. I could vote for this.
okay. So now let's move on. Mr. Benahan or Ms. Brown, do you have any comments on this?
No comments.
No comment, Mr.
I-
Chair. Yeah.
We're moving forward. I appreciate that.
Okay, awesome. All right, number 2 is each committee shall have, this is language from the last policy as well. Each committee member shall have as near as possible, as near as can be, the same number of members, provided that each member of the board shall serve on 2 committees. We got away from this a while. It was removed in the new bylaws, and I just would like to add it back because we are a board of 9. We should share the work equally. And thankfully to the current chair who brought it back, we are now even committees, although some people don't show up, but the work is distributed evenly and equitably. So I think this language should come back because nobody should expect to come on this board and sit here and do less than everybody else. Because this is a privilege to serve on this board, and along with these privileges come responsibilities.
And is this basically the words that you were able to lift off the old one?
Probably almost 100%. I could.
Yeah, I remember when we were putting out
When we
the ad,
had the 2s, right?
when we took off, in the ad, we took off the 2 committees when we were advertising for the last time, and so, but because it wasn't here, but yeah, I think that's fair to put it out there.
Mr. Benahan?
No question, but my comment, I agree with you, Mr. Chair. At least somebody, if you be a chair, a board member for Bristol School, at least be part of the committee, because not only have a title. I know we don't get paid for this, but we here because our community trusts us, vote for us, and we care. So if you don't have that, maybe you're not qualified for this resolution, but I'm agree with you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Ms. Brown?
I don't have a concern about serving at least 2 committees. Should we say in there where they're, because, okay, I'll give a perfect example, you, Mr. Sokolovic, who have the time and ability to serve on multiple committees. Should that be somewhere written in there? I don't know. I'm just saying, because, some individuals may feel maybe that too is just all that they can do. But if you have the time and you're able to, quorum is always an issue for us. So
Yes.
I know we've had conversation in the past about this because some meetings really do need to have more than one person, but it tends to not be. So I just figured maybe something in there that may just be spelled out that either 2 or, 2 committees, but not less than or something. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I believe, Ms. Brown, I believe that's already captured because it says at least. That doesn't prohibit giving more.
Okay.
So it's just at least, like we're asking the city for at least $12 million, but nobody gonna be mad if they give us 15.
True.
I just had to throw that in there.
True.
I had a couple of meetings, so. All right, so anything else? All right, so I make a motion to approve with the one edit to chairman being changed to chairperson, committees bylaw 9280 with the changes as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And now I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And I shall second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. See you in a few minutes, everybody.
Bye-bye.
See you in the
Have a good night.
Aye.
Take care, everyone. God bless you all.
Okay, I got most of what I wanted. Am I out? No, I'm still here.